Guess what, everybody? Today is my birthday! Shut up! Seriously, I'm really not that special. So anyway, guess what I'm gonna do today? Such a big day. I am going to review one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. Well, technically it's not really one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life, but it's still a pretty damn good movie. I proudly present to you King Kong vs. Godzilla. Booyah!
King Kong vs. Godzilla. It was the East versus the West, Japan versus the United States. This movie, even today, remains one of the most epic and successful Godzilla movies of all time.
And with a franchise this popular, how could you go wrong? Yeah, could go really wrong. Maybe I might even tell you about it.
The first thing I need to point out is that King Kong is the same size as Godzilla. The hell? Scale of this movie's all screwed up. Kong was originally 50 feet tall, and Godzilla's like, oh, I don't know, maybe 400 feet tall? Yeah, so that clearly doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe this is supposed to be a new Kong altogether, I don't know. That would explain how he's back from the dead. Yeah, didn't he die in the last movie? I'm kind of confused. The plot is basic enough. It's not complicated like Inception or any of that bullshit, and it seems to work just fine. Pharmaceutical company sets to claim out a monster on Faroe Island. Wait, Faroe Island? Shouldn't it be Skull Island? Because, you know, King Kong's actually... It doesn't matter. Okay, at the same time, Godzilla's released from an iceberg that we last left him in, and Godzilla raids again and starts to head towards Japan. Once the company takes the island god known as King Kong back to Japan, the monster breaks free and the two end up in a colossal fight on Mount Fuji. The fight is spectacular for its time and tends to be funny at some moments. I have a few favorites. One is when Kong is dropped from the air and is sliding into Godzilla. Right off the bat you can see that it's a model of Godzilla just standing still. Another is when Godzilla drop kicks Kong, which is the only bit of stop motion in the film.
That, in fact, is a slight nod to the original King Kong. In fact, that's the reason the director of special effects, Eiji Tsuburaya, started making monster movies for Toho in the first place.
Another funny moment is when these guys look like hand puppets. It's hilarious. Looks like something you'd find in a Gamera movie.
It is pure genius for 1962. Now let's nitpick for a little bit.
One thing I need to mention is when you look at Kong's feet, what do you see? Shoes! Yeah, they couldn't even cover up the bottom of the shoe. Another thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is the DVD cover. Let's analyze this for a minute. Here we got the 1976 King Kong and the 1985 Godzilla at the top. Now, you look at the bottom, we have the 1976 King Kong fighting the 1974 Godzilla. And not only that, but they're fighting in a city. Now, as I recall, I don't remember them fighting in any city at all. And if somebody else does, please give me a shout out. Somebody, please fix this.
That's better.
Oh, hey, look, they got little kids wanting to smoke in this movie. That's nice.
You know what's really weird? Is that originally this movie was supposed to be King Kong vs. Frankenstein. King Kong creator Willis O'Brien wanted to make a sequel following the success of his movie. But the only problem was he couldn't find a company to back it up. So in comes John Beck. And John Beck says to him, okay, I will find you a company no matter what. So he goes all around the world overseas till finally he attracts the attention of Toho, who was just starting to make monster movies at the time. Toho switched Frankenstein over to Godzilla. John Beck got credited for it. Willis O'Brien died before even being able to see the finalized project. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty sad.
Another thing too is that in 1991, Toho was going to remake King Kong vs. Godzilla and release it in 1992 for Toho's 60th anniversary. But not being able to get the rights to Kong, they decided to make Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah instead and release it in 1991, followed by Godzilla vs. Mothra in 1992. King Kong vs. Godzilla is a prime example of big names coming together in the film industry. It's impacted it so greatly that today we have many crossovers like Freddy vs. Jason, Alien vs. Predator, and Boa vs. Python. It's an interesting piece of history that will forever be considered a classic, and that's all that needs to be said about it.